Hey everybody, welcome to day 7 of our journey through John, and today is the day that we're wrapping up the first chapter in the book of John. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's been an encouragement to you, and once again, all questions are more than welcome, and if you have any comments, we'd like to hear from you in that as well. Maybe God's pointing out something to you as you're going through this. Maybe there's been some things that He's opened your eyes to. Really, that's our whole hope as we go through this strange season in our history, that maybe, just maybe, this could be something that would be encouraging to you. Having said that, we're going to wrap up the first chapter of John. We're going to be talking through verses 43 through 51. I'm going to go ahead and read those right now. It says, the next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Powerful words of your disciple. Verse 44, now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Once again, that is beginning to spread. Andrew told Peter, now it's spreading throughout the region that they know. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We've found him whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." This guy's the Messiah, the one who John the Baptist told us about. Verse 46, Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Well, come and see. Isn't that what we saw Jesus tell Andrew yesterday?" It's amazing. We see this thing perpetuating itself. Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him and said of him, "Behold, an Israelite, indeed, in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." And Nathanael answered him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." And Jesus answered him, "Because I said to you, I saw you under a fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." Pretty interesting passage here. We can tie so much of this into the past, and I made a few touch points there. There are so many more, but just about follow me and disciples following him, and he's the rabbi. He's the one they're going to follow and learn from. And you see once again that John the Baptist pointed Andrew to Jesus. Andrew pointed Peter to Jesus, and those two together, all of a sudden we see Philip coming into the picture. Now Philip to Nathanael, and this is how discipleship works. What you're experiencing, and you realize that Jesus is the Messiah, you start extending to the world around you. This is how this whole thing works. And that's so powerful for us to see. And yet, well, yeah, but those were the disciples. These were basically teenagers and guys in their early 20s that were fishermen for the most part and had tax collectors and that sort of thing. These were not guys that they're like, oh, the disciples. These were normal guys. And what's interesting in this is the thread I see going through this is John the Baptist even admitted, "I didn't know him." And briefly here, I just want to point out in verses in verse 10, he was in the world and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. And then we see in verse 18, no one has ever seen God, the only God who is at the Father's side. He made him known, meaning he made it a way for us to know God. We go down again in chapter 1 to verse 26. John the Baptist says, "I baptize with water, but among you stands one you do not know." And once again, Jesus is there, but they don't recognize him as the Messiah. We go to verse 31. John the Baptist admits, "I didn't know him." This is Jesus' cousin. John the Baptist is the one who leapt inside his mother's womb when Mary came and was pregnant with Jesus. There was something there. There was a connection. And yet even again in verse 33, he said, "I myself did not know him." And this is a powerful thing I see going on through the thread of John, is that I feel like the Apostle John is pointing out, as he's written this later on, that we had no idea who Jesus was. He was walking amongst us for 30 years and we had no clue. And even the last three and a half years of his life, we knew who Jesus was, but we didn't understand the magnitude of all that he was, that he, as he talks about in John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, the Word was God. John, the apostle, is telling us that we had no clue. We didn't understand the depths of the fact that this is the eternal God walking in flesh amongst us. And I think that's the thread that we see John pointing out here over and over and over again, and how God was beginning to reveal who Jesus was to those who would follow him. To John the Baptist first, who was the forerunner, but then also to all these disciples. And they didn't fully understand, as we can see continuing on, but they were starting to learn who he was. And the beauty in this is at the end of this chapter, we see a guy named Nathanael who says, "How do you know me?" He knows us. It's our job to get to know him. It's our job to come as he calls upon us. It's our job to follow him as his disciples and as his children and as the church. That's what we're called to do. We're called to follow him, and as we follow him, to take that message of who he is to those around us. That's what we see the disciples doing now. That's what we saw John the Baptist do with Andrew, and Andrew to Peter, and Peter and Andrew to Nathanael, or to Philip, and then Philip to Nathanael, and so on. This is how this is supposed to work. This is discipleship, pointing people to Jesus. And so often, I think we sit back and say, well, I'm not prepared for that. Well, maybe we don't know him fully, but may we walk down this pathway where we may know him better. And as we come to know him better, the things we experience in our walk with him, we will be compelled to extend to those around us. And if we're sitting back and saying, I don't have any friends that don't believe, get together and start learning about him more, as Peter and Andrew did, and then pray for opportunities to speak to those who don't know him. See, we're the church. And if you take things like John and you cross-reference it with a book like Acts or Ephesians, and you see what the church is supposed to be, we are compelled by what we've experienced to extend it to the world around us. I think that's the challenge. There's so much more I'd love to open up, but I want to keep this simple. So today, a couple questions, and maybe you have a little quiet time after this. Who led you to Jesus? How did they do it? What have you done with the story of Jesus? How have you grown closer to Jesus? And who around you can you extend Jesus to? Simple questions, but things I think we, as believers, as disciples of Jesus, need to ask. I hope you have a great day. We'll dive into chapter 2 tomorrow.